Percent change represents, right, an increase or a decrease between some original value and some like final or ultimate value. Okay, so here's the percent change formula. The thing on the top here, new minus original, that's the amount of change that happens. So you take the amount of change, you divide that amount of change by the starting value, the original value, and then to convert to a percentage, you'll multiply by 100%. And that answer, right, that'll give you the percent change from the original value to the new value. Okay, so just to summarize, right, subtract the original value from the new value, divide that difference by the original value, and then multiply the result by 100% to turn that fraction or decimal into a percent for percent change. Again, to convert a decimal to a percentage, you just move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Actually, I should not say again because before we actually went the other way, right? We changed a percentage to a decimal by moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. And so in order to go to flip that, right, to go from a decimal to a percentage, we have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay. So, Benji, may we please have a 2-minute timer and a refreshed poll? Everybody, we're going to give you a chance to try working on another question here. Okay, so think about what you know so far about percent change, percentages, okay? And then we'll review your work on this next question, question 2. And again, just as a tip, start by identifying what you're being asked for and end by checking that you actually provided that as your answer. Okay, so 2 minutes, here is our question. Try it out. So this question is asking us to determine how much will Dominique's total earnings for the week be. Okay, and we learn that Dominique earns $285 per week plus 8% commission rate on all sales. And then we learn that Dominique sells, right? Sales for Dominique for that week were $4,213. Okay. So total earnings are going to be, again, the $285 plus the commission. And so, right, to figure out the commission, what kind of math do we do with the 8% in relation to the $4,213? Mahibrium, we multiply, yeah. And in order to right, to multiply, we're going to have to change our percentage here into a decimal. Okay, so 8% becomes 0.08. And when we multiply those two numbers together, 0.08, right, times the $4,213, we get $337.04. And I see that's choice A. Am I finished? Can I just select choice A and move on? No, good catch, right? Because they don't want to know just what the commission is. They want the total earnings. So we've got to add the commission amount to our $285 from earlier. And when we do that, we get $622.04, which is choice D, the correct answer. So good catch, right? Always check that you're answering the question that's actually asked before you select an answer. You got this. Great work. All right. So we've been looking at percent change, percentages in general. Now we'll look at using graphs to display information. When we're given a graph on the GED, we generally want to pay attention to things like the title of the graph, any labels on the graph, and any units of measurement for the graph. Okay, so title, labels, units of measurement, those are some especially important things to pay attention to when we're dealing with a graph in GED math. So without further ado, take us over. All right. So displaying categorical data. Categorical data, basically, as the name suggests, is about categories of things. So pie graphs we can use to represent portions of a whole. Okay, so for example, down here, we've got brand X potato chip sales in a certain year, 1975. And we can see that foreign sales were a bit smaller than domestic sales for brand X potato chips, right, in 1975. All right. Now, actually, let me have us be a little more precise here. Kind of if we had to estimate, rather than just saying that, right, the foreign sales are smaller, right, smaller amount than the domestic sales here. What what would you say foreign sales are approximately as a fraction of the entire circle graph here, the entire pie graph? The foreign sales are what portion of the entire pie graph? Edie, Rosie, Adrienne, yeah. Great work, everybody. Yeah, it's about 1/4, right? 1/4, 25%. Sure. Okay. It's just estimating from the graph. That's pie graphs. Bar graphs, right, as the name suggests, use bars, like these two here in the right-hand graph, bars to represent values. Okay. Um, one of the axes represents, right, has the labels for the quantities being represented. So here we have domestic versus foreign. And then the other axis here gives us the numerical scale, right? So the values here, it looks like it's number of units sold in millions, millions of units sold for brand X potato chips, domestic versus foreign. Notice that this is a different year now, 2005. Okay, so question for you all. Based on this bar graph here, this information for the year 2005, what do we know about domestic sales in relation to foreign sales? If you had to estimate how much domestic sales is in relation to foreign sales, what could we say? Rosie, if we just have to flip that, yeah. So domestic sales is higher. It's about twice as much as the foreign sales. Another way you could have said that, and I think going, Rosie, to your point, would be something like foreign sales is basically about half of domestic sales for this bar graph. All right, great work. So just some ways that you could see data being displayed, right? Categories of data, in this case, domestic category versus foreign category of brand X potato chip sales. All right, we have another practice question for you to try. Fellow teacher Benji, maybe please get another 2-minute poll. I'm sorry, 2-minute timer and another multiple. I'm sorry. This one actually is a different kind of question. So let me take us over there and then we'll give you the poll, everybody, once it's time. But just to briefly explain how this works. So the poll that fellow teacher Benji is going to be pulling up, it's going to basically give you a chance to select options for the two parts of this question. So again, start by identifying what you're being asked for and end by checking that you actually provided that for this question. All right, so 2 minutes, see what you can do for this question, and then we'll review together. Go for it. All right, got some good participation going on in our poll. Please take our poll if you've not had a chance yet. We'll leave it open for you. We'd love to get your input, what you're thinking about for the answers to question 3. And as fellow teacher Benji said in the chat earlier, right, this is a two-part question. So we've got two parts to take care of here. All right, so this question, right, the focus is really on hours in both, for both of our answers here. Okay, and so reading for context, right, we learned that this graph shows the level of ibuprofen, right, some number of units, Y units in a patient's bloodstream, X hours, right, after the ibuprofen was taken. So the focus here in this statement that we're supposed to fill in the blanks for basically, or select our options for, the level of ibuprofen in the patient's bloodstream increased from which hour to which other hour? Well, if we take a look at our graph here, the only increase that happens, right, it starts at hour 0, if you will. And then we basically, right, the increase, right, it goes up and up and up until about, 2/3 of the way through that first hour here. Okay. So that's our focus for this question. So we want to select 0 for our first answer. And we want to select 2/3 for our second answer, because again, the ibuprofen level is going up for this person in just the first 2/3, right, of that first hour, basically. And then as you see, the ibuprofen level starts to drop and drop and drop, right? Keeps going down. Okay. So the answer here, 0 and 2/3. Nice work, right? Nice effort taking our poll. Be careful of other answer choices right here that can be tempting. For example, 6 here, it looks like from the graph is the ibuprofen level. But the question isn't what's the ibuprofen level. The question is, right, where are we at time-wise with hours? We want to focus not on the vertical, right, the y-axis. You want to focus on the horizontal x-axis. Okay. If you have any questions, please let us know in the Q&A so that fellow teacher Benji can help you there. All right. Now we've got some statistics up next for this session. So some commonly tested statistics in GED Math.